Okay guys, I have been asked by a ton of people for my notes for passing the 107. These are my notes that I use, and if you follow the link below, you can download it from the PDF from my site. Go through and read the material and follow my notes, and you will see everything you need to know to pass your 107. You don't need to go pay $300 or $400 to take a course. The first thing is you need to know traffic patterns on an airport. You need to know how they are numbered. We take 220 degrees, we call it 22. So 22 is landing this way, runway 4 is landing this way, and there's 31 and 130. And they're the reciprocal, the course, okay? Magnetic north is always up. So our runways are going to be 1 to 36 will be the numbering of the runways. They're magnetic courses, so they didn't add the deviation or variation, okay? It's true, it's magnetic, and it's not true. If there's 3 runways that are running parallel, there'll be L, C, and R for left, center, and right, okay? So you could have 3 runway 31s, and that's going to be how they're designated. So you're probably going to get a question where they're talking about the plane is east of keep wanting to say highway, I'm sorry. The plane is east, here I go again. The plane is east of runway 13. Where is it located? Or the plane is in the downwind of, or we'll get to that in a minute, but there'll be one question where they want to know where the plane is located around the airport if you're listening on the radio. Standard day conditions. That is at sea level, 15 degrees Celsius, which is 59 degrees Fahrenheit, at 29.92 millimeters of mercury, or 1013.2 millibars. Okay, that is your standard day conditions. Density, there will be several questions on density altitude, and that is how it changes from the standard day. If the density goes up, get your density altitude goes up, the density of the air will go down, and the air, how will that affect your aircraft performance? That's basically what the question's about, is affecting the aircraft performance. It's really common sense, but all the questions are going to be if the temperature goes up, the humidity goes up, or this or that. So your traffic patterns, most are left-handed, which means a plane coming from the south will usually cross midfield, then turn left downwind, then turn left on base, then turn left for final. Okay? If the plane is coming from the north, it's usually going to come in at a 45-degree angle and make those turns. Like I said, if you're going to cross the runway, you're usually going to cross that. Now you can go crosswind, but see, if the airport does not have a control tower, it's uncontrolled, and you're coming in the crosswind this way, and a plane is taking off, there's a chance that you could have a collision right here. This direction here is called the departure and the crosswind, but if they say midfield crosswind, they're meaning the plane's coming across here and he's going to turn left. Most airports are left-handed. If they're right-handed, they're going to go like this: downwind, base, final. How do you operate it in a MOA? Operate with extreme caution. If it's an active MOA, do not fly. And you can see the section X of the supplemental chart is where you look up to find out info on what kind of activities taking place in an MOA. You must show your 107 credentials to any authority. I believe that's changed now, so you must show. If a police officer asks you, you're supposed to show them. I believe that was a question also. What are the reasons that could cause a NOTAM to be issued? Also remember, there's bird TAMs, snow TAMs, and different weather TAMs. PAVE, Pilot Aircraft Environment. The 2 videos I really liked was Gary Glim and Tony Northrop. If you haven't watched them, you need to. You must fly 50 feet below the clouds, or don't fly, 2,000 feet from the clouds, 2,000 feet from any guide wires. 100 mile an hour is the max speed of a drone. You must have 3 statutory miles of visibility. You must register your drone. If it's a half a pound to 55 pounds, must be registered. You must be 13 years of age to register. You must be 16 to take the 107 test. Can't drink alcohol for 8 hours before, and your blood alcohol must be below 0.04. If you have a narcotics conviction, you cannot get your 107 for 1 year. If you do more than $500 in damage in an accident, you must report it to the FAA within 10 days or file a NASA report. Well, I think this is a question. What is the purpose of the rudder? And remember, you got yaw, pitch, and roll. Pitch is up and down. Roll, that's what your ailerons are going to do. And your yaw is side to side. How far from an airport does Class D airspace reach? This was part of a question. Most airspace, each circle is 10 miles across. So Class D airspace is 10 miles across. So if the airport's in the center, the Class D airspace is going out 5 miles, a radius of 5 miles around the airport. Your ceiling of cloud cover, your ceiling is the lowest of broken or overcast, but not thin. What are the only clouds mentioned on a TAF? Broken clouds. METAR, okay? I think this was a question too. So RAB 35 on a METAR means what? It means that rain began 35 minutes after the hour, and that the RAB 35 will be in the remarks section. RMK is short for remark. Okay, I did not have any questions on latitude and longitude, but you need to familiarize yourself with that, know how it is written, be able to look at it on the sectional and know what a mile is. You can measure distance by using your Latin long, so know how to do Latin long. I didn't have any questions on it. Alright, in the test booklet, you need to go get the test booklet. You can download it online and become familiar with it. Find this page, figure 12, and print it out. The test booklet is on the FAA's website. There's no reason to go buy it on Amazon. The only page you really need to print out is this one right here. Your questions on your test, there will probably be 2, are going to come off of this. So the only thing you really need to know in METAR and TAFs is right here. Okay, so you need to know these abbreviations. And both my METAR and TAF questions, one of each, was really simple. So the first thing you need to know is date and time. Okay, I think that was my question. So your METAR, your special. And this is your wind, how fast, which direction, true, not magnetic, but true. So the wind's out of 110. It's going 12 knots with gusts to 18 knots. Your visibility is 15 statutory miles. Scattered is 1/8. And this is your altimeter. This means scattered at 500. BM is missed. Here's your remark. So that's 35 minutes. Rain began 35 minutes after the hour. So there's your time. Here's another speed question. It's 180 degrees true at 4 knots. So you see, it's really not that hard. FG means fog. This is runway right there, and it's overcast at 500 feet. And in your TAF, that means haze, and that's probability of a thunderstorm. So be familiar with it. Towering cumulus, cumulonimbus, runway visual scale, VG 5 to 10 miles in the vicinity of the airport. Okay, you need to know, like I say, 60-70% of my questions were all on the sectional. Okay, you need to know what that symbol means on an airport. Magenta means no control tower. That symbol means there's a light. Okay, this symbol here those little nubs that stick out, little tabs that stick out, means they have fuel. Blue means it's tower. Okay, this was a test question. Okay, this is what Class D airspace is going to have a symbol for. It's 25,000 feet mean sea level. But if it says minus right here, 2,500 feet mean sea level. But if it has minus 25, that means it goes up to 2,500 feet but does not go to 2,500 feet. So it would be 2,499 feet. And that's what happens when you have Class D and then you have Class C above it, Class B, and so forth. Unicon. You need to know what Unicon is. That's for ordering fuel, rental cars. The ASOS is a pre-recording weather briefing. You need to know that. Runways are in magnetic. Towers for radio towers, cell towers. Okay. If you see one number is its altitude and mean sea level, and the other one is above the ground. Okay. If you see UC, that means under construction, which means it's not up to that height yet. Dash magenta is Class E airspace. Airspace is measured in MSL. The ASOS is your automatic surface observation system, and that's what generates METARs. Okay, latitude. You can use this to measure a mile. You can't use longitude, you can only use latitude, but that is 1 minute of latitude is 1 mile. So learn figure 12 in the supplement, figure 12 and 15. Alright, here we go again. Rain began 35 minutes after the hour. Now, can you go over a tower plus 400 AGL above the tower, but you cannot go into airspace? So if there is a tower and you need to go above it to take pictures, you can go up to 400 feet above the tower. So you can go up to 800 feet. And this is a test question. But is that tower, the test question I had was, the tower was like 10 miles from the airport in Class B airspace. Remember the upside down wedding cake. So you could actually fly over the tower, which say is 500 feet. Say the tower is 400 feet and you can fly another 400 feet above it, so that's 800 feet, but you cannot go into overhead Class C, B, or A airspace. Now Class D airspace goes from the ground up, so you can't fly any towers in Class D airspace. But if you clouds 2,000 feet from them, 500 feet below them, ceiling, we've gone over. What is the radius of Class D airspace? So Class D, 5-mile radius. So Class C is a 10-mile radius. Class B airspace is 15-mile radius. Class A is 20-mile radius. Measure. So the first thing you need to do when you go in to take your test is you want to go to the legend and find the distance scale. And then on your piece of paper, they're going to give you a pencil and a piece of paper, a calculator, and the test booklet. And you want to go and measure, make your own little scale on the piece of paper. Humidity decreases performance. Magenta is not a towered airport. Okay, when you look at the airports on the sectional, they have this. You need to know what all this means. Control tower, what frequency? That means it's part-time when the tower's closed. Your CTAF is your common traffic advisory frequency. Okay, I'm not going to go over this, but you need to, it's mainly common sense. Density, altitude. When the pressure goes up, the density of the air goes up, aircraft performance goes up, the density altitude goes down if your pressure goes up. If your temperature goes up, the density of the air goes down, aircraft performance goes down, the density altitude goes up. It's basically common sense. Humidity, density of the air goes down, aircraft performance goes down, density altitude goes up. You must register your drone every 3 years. Center of gravity really only matters at low speed. So think about an F-16 at an air show who's going around in circles. Okay, they're not stalling, because the center of gravity, when you start pulling G's, you don't have to worry about the center of gravity anymore. But center of gravity affects you at low speeds, hovering, and when you're going to stall out. So you need to go to the FAA's website. This book is free. Burn it to a CD, flash drive, take it to Humpo, have them print it out, put it in a binder. Everything on your test is going to be in this book. So read this book. I think it's only 70 pages. Okay. The first thing you need to know is your airspace. There's going to be probably 10 questions right here. There's controlled, uncontrolled, special use, so forth. Okay. You need to know about Class G and Class E, and why some of them are 700, some of them are 1200. But here's your Class D up to there. Okay. This is Class D that turns into Class C. This is Class D that goes to Class C that goes to Class B. Okay, Class G goes from the surface to there. So Class B goes from the surface to 10,000 feet. Now what I was telling you before is if the tower, let's say that tower is located right here, you could actually get in there and fly that. Or if the tower is located right here, you can fly under that airspace. But I say this is Class D and then C, but according to this it's Class C the whole way. But the first ring is going to be, this is going to be 10 miles, that's going to be 20 miles. So you need to read this, you need to be aware of this. So here's your Class C and the outer circle. They're usually all standard. Mean sea level. Class D is usually surface to 2500. Prohibited areas. You need to know that. There's one question about prohibited, restricted. I already went up how you find out when it's restricted, because most of the time it's not restricted the whole time. Warning areas. The whole coast can be warning areas. MOAs. Okay, once again you need to look it up and see when they're active and when they're not active. Mainly they're firing missiles and aircraft, and you don't want to be in there. Alert areas, controlled firing areas, national park, wilderness areas. Request that you operate 2,000 feet above those areas. Tethered balloons, you don't want to run into that cable, because a tethered balloon goes to 60,000 feet sometimes. Now we got our MTRs. Now I had a question, one question on this, and I wasn't sure. I don't know if I got it right or not. But it was about VR routes, and what you saw, I think it was a Victor route. So what we saw was a Victor route, and the question was about how high off the ground this is like highways in the sky for military aircraft. Okay, military aircraft's going to follow this training route. Temporary flight restrictions, TFRs, and then we also have NOTAMs. Okay, and you can have BERTAMs and all that other stuff. Weather, here we go with our METARs, and you need to understand, it explains it all right here. Here's your abbreviations. I did not learn all this, and if it wasn't on that one sheet of paper I wouldn't even look it up. This is just way too much to learn that you're never going to use. The heights of cloud bases are reported, and 3-digit number in hundreds of feet. Temperature and dew point. There was a question about when the temperature gets the same as the dew point, what's going to happen. There's your altitude settings, whether the pressures, whether the mercury is rising or lowering. So read through that. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on it. Like I said, there will be 2 questions, but I found them relatively easy. Density, altitude, I'm not going to go over this again, but it's common sense. But think about when one goes up, something else goes down. It has to achieve equilibrium. So when one force goes up, the other is going to go down. Increasing the temperature of a substance decreases its density. This was a question on the test. Water, and it wasn't this exact question, but it had to do with it. Water vapor is lighter than air. Remember, the clouds in the sky, they're up in the air, right? That's water vapor. And moist air is lighter than dry air. Okay? Relative humidity, you need to know this stuff. There was one question about this in the center of gravity. If you add weight to an aircraft, it must fly at a higher angle of attack to maintain a given altitude and speed, because you are changing the point center of gravity and the center of pressure. Stable atmosphere makes vertical movement difficult. Unstable atmosphere, small vertical air movements tend to become larger. Cool, dry air is very stable and resists vertical movement. Inversion, there was a question on that. Temperature inversions and what it can cause. Think about being on the beach and the breeze is blowing because the beach is a different temperature than the ocean. So if your saturation point, when your temperature and your dew point are close together, you're going to get fog and low clouds, and precipitation will form. Dew and frost, you need to know that. The only difference is their temperature. I don't think I had a single question about this, and it was drilled into me because other people were talked about it on their YouTube. Unstable air, good visibility. Stable air, poor visibility. But I would recommend you memorize that. Aerodynamic cooling. Your wing, that's why wings freeze up on airplanes, frost over. The life cycle of a thunderstorm. Your ceiling is the lowest level. Clouds are reported broken when 5/8 to 7/8 of the sky is covered with clouds. Overcast means the entire sky. Ceiling visibility, the greatest horizontal distance. Maximum gross takeoff weight. Higher elevations, higher air temperature, high humidity. You need to know there's going to be questions on how it's going to affect your plane. Here we go. Center of pressure. You need to understand center of pressure. There's a question on that. Now there's one question you're going to have. Everyone seems to have it, and this is out of the test booklet. Is this bank angle when your plane is going sideways? And I never understood why it's in our 107 test, because our drones do not bank. Anyways, they're going to say that your drone is at a 38-degree angle. How many G's is it pulling? And I believe this was the only question that I used a calculator for. There was some reason I had to use a calculator, but you basically just go find your angle, come up, there's your G's, okay? The important thing on this to remember is if you get past, I forget what it is, I think it's like 40 degrees or 50 degrees. If you're flying a plane and you bank it more than that, you will lose your lift coming off the wings, and you will stall out and crash, unless you're an F-16. I think it was somehow like square root of the load factor or something like that. All right, this was a question. During an emergency, the remote pilot in command is permitted to deviate from any part 107. So if you're flying at 400 feet and there's a plane coming at 300 feet, you're actually allowed to go up 500 or 600 feet above the plane to get out of his way. Okay, and that's a question. So although my drone will not allow me to go above 400 feet. So okay, your CTAF, Common Traffic Advisory Frequency. There was a question on the test about this. If there's not a frequency listed on the sectional for a tower, what frequency will you transmit, or what frequency should you listen to? And multicom is 122 You might want to remember that frequency. Okay, and Unicom is 122.8. Okay, that was a test question. So you should broadcast in the blind when you're 10 miles from the airport. Okay, and this is what it's going to sound like. Okay, and I think that question about traffic patterns was like that you heard on the radio. Town and Country Cessna 123 Bravo Foxtrot is 10 miles south inbound for landing. Town and Country traffic, and you were supposed to determine where the aircraft was on the chart. So entering the pattern, 45 degrees, downwind leg. So anyways, you need to know those. And those are the key words. They're going to say left base, final, clear of runway. Increase in the temperature of a substance decreases its density. It's hotter. The molecules are moving more. Think about that. 0.04 alcohol. Now there were probably 4 or 5 questions. There was a question on this right here. How to scan. And you basically want to look. You don't want to have your eyes moving continually. You want to move, have them look there, 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 look there. There were 4 or 5 questions on CMR, so you need to know this. Risk management, and there's 5 hazardous altitudes: anti-authority, impulsiveness, invulnerability, macho, and resignations. So you're going to have like 2 questions, and they're going to tell you a behavior, and they want you to pick which one it is. Okay, so here's the examples. And like I said, I believe there was 2 questions where they said this pilot was doing this. What hazardous altitude is that? Sectional charts. 1 inch is 6.86 nautical miles, or 8 statutory miles. And that's it, guys. So it's only the guide's 67 pages long. So I would concentrate on that. I would highly recommend you get the book and pay attention to it. Read it once, go through and highlight it, and then just go through and read what I highlighted there. But like I said, that will be in the book. Go find the book on the website. But most importantly, when you look at this, you should be able to know what kind of airport that is right there. What does that star mean? What do those little tabs that stick out mean? There you go. See these numbers? The ATAS. What is that frequency? You need to know this, because you will be asked lots of questions about that. Also remember that there's a legend, and if there's something you don't know, you can always go to the legend rather, and figure out what that symbol is. It's basically common sense, but you almost need to memorize this chart right here and understand it. These distances from this to this is standard in most of the country. Now where you will, and there was a question on this, is when one overlapped, so there's an airport here that's class C, and there's an airport here that's class D, and that class B was overlapping this airport over here, and this chopped in over like this. Okay, and the question was, what was this airspace right here, or something like that. It was a pretty tough question. So this is my notes, and this is all I used. So good luck, guys.